everybody. I'm Alicia Kback, and I'm here with Joel Yee. This is Coffee in the Green Room. Hi, Joel. How are you?
Hey Alicia, thanks for having me here. Super excited for today.
I'm super excited. Now, you're currently in Vancouver, correct?
Correct.
Okay,
Yes.
good. And so you work from home primarily, and you do so much. I'm going to just read your bio here because I met you 2 weeks ago in Miami, and I can't even
Yeah.
believe it's been 2 weeks already. But you
Right.
informed me that you live in Vancouver, and I see behind you pretty much everything in your office is gone because you travel so much for work. You are
Yes.
the best at sales. And I know this because we work in a lot with the same people: Krista Mayshore, Les
Yes.
Brown, Tony
Yes.
Robbins, Russell Brunson,
Correct.
VIP Ignite. Okay, so I'm going to read this because you guys listening to this podcast right now will know why he travels so much. So, Joel has been a leading sales team in the coaching and consulting industry for the past 5+ years. He started as a sales closer for Dan Lok in 2018, a multiple 8-figure coach. Joel eventually rose through the ranks and became the head of sales during his tenure. With Dan, Joel led a team of 100 plus closers and generated over $45 million in sales. I can't say that without a smile because that's huge. From
Yes.
mastermind programs, coaching programs, and much more. After leaving Dan's company in early 2022, Joel had worked with several industry leaders such as Ryan Panetta, Rudy Marr, Peng Joon, who I love, and Brandon Carter, where he worked closely with them to scale their sales team to the next level. He developed the automated sales farming system in early 2023 after successfully testing it for years with his clients and previous companies. So obviously it works.
Right.
He is now focused on all things sales and resurrecting dead leads, which is so fun. Joel's management expertise developed from over 8 years in the U.S. Army Reserve, where he served as a commissioned officer and gained leadership skills to succeed in a cutthroat world of high performance sales. With Joel's coaching, many online coaches and consultants have delivered millions for their clients and completely transformed businesses around the globe. Oh my, I don't even know where to start with you other than here's going to be, I'm putting you in the hot seat. For someone who's already earning 8 figures, why do they need a coach?
Yeah, it's great. It's a great question. I'm glad you asked that because sometimes especially when I was growing up, I would look at these top CEOs, top athletes, top celebrities, and I'd be like, they're so special. They're so great. Like for example, we can look at tennis, right? You got
Yeah.
Roger Federer, you got Djokovic, you got Nadal. Why do they still have a coach? Why not just get on the court, play their own game, and just do their own thing because they're so talented, right? And then what I realized is that there are always problems and obstacles that you might not have solved, but someone else has already solved. And so rather than trying to solve it on your own and waste a bunch of time and sweat and blood and tears and years and even money, right? Why not invest in having a coach and get there quicker? So for many of my 8-figure clients, they come to us, they come to me because we are experts in sales. So if they want help with their sales team, their sales department, it's a lot more quicker and even more affordable than spending time trying to figure out on your own to pay an expert to help them fix their sales problems.
I can only imagine. I mean, as you know, like VIP Ignite, you were just at our event just two
Yeah,
weeks ago. We had Key Shockley there from Public Enemy and Alex J, who works with Pitbull and Despacito and Taylor Swift, and you got to hang out with them. But as far as like a sales organization, for us, it's really hard sometimes to explain to people that are brand new or who've
mhm,
been struggling for a while. You need to cut a check for speed. You need to get in front of the right people because not ever achieving greatness is the greatest loss. All the
absolutely.
money and time and anguish and tears, like you
Right,
said. Sometimes
right.
you kind of just need to step apart and be like, okay, I see the bigger picture. I'm not in it like you. I mean, this is insane. I mean, the fact that you're able to diagnose a problem and kind of like write a prescription to fix it is unbelievable. Now, can we talk a little bit about poverty mindset versus positive mindset? Because
Hmm.
there's a lot of
Mhm.
times people show up, and as we like to say, they're dead on arrival. They don't believe in
Right,
themselves.
right,
Sometimes they hit a
right.
mental roadblock. Maybe it's friends, it's family.
Yeah,
Maybe they've tried and failed
absolutely.
numerous times. How
Yeah,
do you get around that? Like, how do you
yeah,
penetrate that brain to go,
yeah,
hey, this is something you really need, and we're gonna work on this together? How do you
yeah.
even start that?
Yeah, and I'll be the first to come out and say, you know what, I grew up with extreme poverty mindset. Just to share a quick bit of my background story.
Yeah.
I was actually born and raised in Malaysia, It's a developing country. I spent 16 years there. So I actually spent more time in Malaysia than I spent in the US. So growing up, I was always told things like, don't buy that from the menu. We can't afford that, that food. We can't, don't go into that shop. People like us don't shop there, right? Like
People
growing
like
up, I
us
had
don't
that.
shop there.
Yeah, like we,
Yeah.
we're not meant to go to Gucci or LV or Coach, right? We don't like literally.
And I know you, and I know you love those brands now. So
Right, right. So
yeah.
I went through a big, mindset makeover, right? Which shows you, if you're listening to this, that if I could go through that, you could definitely go through that as well. Now, the reason how I've managed to change, or why I've been able to, let's talk about why it's important first. So,
yeah.
With me coaching my students and my clients, one thing I find, which is so apparent now, like we've sort of understood why people don't achieve the success that they want to achieve, because everybody comes out and says, oh, I want to make 10K a month, oh, I want to make $1 million a year, right? Everybody comes to us and says that. Now, when we look at the people that actually do that, right, the 1%, versus the 99%. A fun fact, by the way, the global percentage of people that make over 100,000 US dollars in the world, guess what, Alicia? Guess what the number is? 1%.
Yeah.
So if you speak to a room of 100 people globally, one person will be making over 100K, right? Which is a small number, right? Yeah. But yet you see everybody saying they want to make that money, 100K, $1 million, things like that. So the biggest difference is what we call the being, identity, the identity, right? When I was with Dan, he used to say a quote that at first didn't make a lot of sense to me. Now it does. He used to say this. He said, if you want to be a millionaire, you have to first start living and acting like a millionaire, right? If you want to become the person you want to be, you first have to start acting as if you already are. Now, back then when I was a lot younger, I didn't get that. I was like, how am I supposed to act like a millionaire when I don't even know what a millionaire feels like? But now I get it, because it's not about the money, it's not about the status, the success. It's about just simply what I did was I went to real life millionaires, my mentors, my friends, and literally just observed the way they acted. So I started noticing some things. Number one, they were never afraid to invest in themselves. When they saw something that they couldn't do, they would acquire the course or the coaching for that.
And they would hire the best, not just
the best,
just to get it done. They would hire the best to emulate, those results.
Yeah, like when they were at a restaurant, you know how, like when I grew up, everyone was like just trying to pay for their own bill. People were not, people were like, oh, could you pay for me? Like I was very used to sort of like the scarcity mindset. But then, these friends would just pay for the whole table, right? So just being able to observe and watch all the abundance helped me realize that, okay, you know what? This is a poverty mindset and this is a success mindset. The reason why they are so successful is because they have this mindset. It's like Jason Fladlin, right? He's like the $500 million webinar guy. He said this the best. He said that like that's this saying he uses on his webinars for his objections, right? He says something about like, how people say that, you know what, I will do it when I have time, right? When I have time, then I'll start volunteering. When I have time, I'll start doing it. When I have money, then I'll start investing. Let me have money first. And he says this the best. He says that makes no sense at all, because that is an issue of the heart, right? For example, if you are a generous, charitable person, meaning you give to charity no matter what, right? It doesn't matter how much money or time you have. You're going to give no matter what, because that's your heart. So it doesn't make sense to say, well, when I have time, then I will do this. When I have money, then I'll do. You just do it because that's who you are. So that's all tied down to identity. And so, I would say for me, the biggest thing was just being able to shift my identity from a broke Asian person from a developing country to
who was surrounded by people who constantly told you that that's who you were. Their past is now dictating your future, and you would have led down that trajectory path had you not met real people and boom, pivoted. You know what I mean?
Yes. And I actually add one thing, because people may be thinking, well, Joe, how did you even get with those, millionaire friends? How do you even how do you just go? It's hard to just go like this to this, right? What happened? Yeah. Well, for me, in the beginning, I had no money, right? Like I said, I had no money. It's not like I couldn't. Now it's different. Last year, we invested over $250,000 in mentorship, masterminds, coaching. But when I
Yeah.
first started, I didn't have the money. So what did I do? And this is what everyone listening on a podcast could do right now. I literally volunteered at Dan's company for 6 months before he even gave me a job. So like I worked for free. So I added value. You add value, you add value. I'm not saying you have to work for free. You got to pay the bills to get it, but you could always intern, volunteer. I did the community moderation team for 6 months. I did the little hosting thing for Dan for 6 months,
Rolled
right?
up your
There's so many
sleeves,
things.
you got it done. You weren't too good for that. You wanted to get in the room. And like you said, you brought value instead of, I get a lot of those people that hold their hand out. Like, what are you going to do for me? I'm like, excuse
Right,
me? What are you bringing
right,
to the table?
right.
You know?
Absolutely. And because of the connection with Dan, I met Brandon Carter. Until today, Brandon has still been my client, right? Brandon Carter's King Keto, the online fitness trainer, man. And
Yeah.
like because of all that, like the connections have managed to flow. So that's what I would say from anyone that is currently, and if you're self-aware to realize you have a scarcity or a poverty mindset, that's good. That's the first step, right? The first step to any anything is
Recognition.
self-awareness,
First step,
right?
recognition. Okay.
Recognition. Now you know exactly what to do. Find someone in your local area. Maybe you like VIP Ignite. Reach out to Alicia and Michael. I'm sure they've got a lot of things you could work on that they need help with, right?
Yeah.
The first thing is just to offer, to be a service, to be of value. Yeah.
I think that's so important because as they always say, your network is your net worth. Think of some of the top 5 people that you hang out with. And if you're in a poverty mindset, and again, I talk to a lot of aspiring models, actors, and musicians. I'm like, even a musician, you met over the weekend people that work with Taylor Swift and won Grammys and Key Shockley from Public Enemy, Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I always tell people, how long are you going to continue? When the pain is great enough, you're going to do something about it. But most people, when it happens, it happens. What does that even mean? You have to take massive action, which means taking risks to get in front of the right people to change your destiny. It doesn't just happen unless and think about it. If you were that poor, as you called it, Asian kid, whose family told you can't order those certain things. I grew up with a family, every time we went out to eat, even though we had money, it was always, why are you ordering the most expensive thing? You don't need a soda. We drink water. Sodas are wasted money. So I was always brought up like that. And I've always noticed, even when I take people out to dinner, you'll see people when they know you're paying for the check, appetizer, salad, the filet, add the lobster, extra drinks. And I'm like, and it's sometimes I think the audacity, but sometimes I also think they just don't know. They're looking for a free meal. And so you became friends with a lot of amazing people, including Michael Fomkin. And you had talked about spending $250,000 a year. Some people think that's unfathomable. They'll spend money on an iPhone. They'll spend money on Netflix. They'll spend money on Starbucks. They'll spend money on Gucci. They'll spend money on anything for immediate results. But investing in themselves and having a coach, the problem is they don't see it instantly. They actually have to implement.
For sure.
And so, and like you say, you have the keys to success, but you can only train somebody to do so, but they have to literally go down their own path. They're going to have to roll up their sleeves and work for it. You can't do it for them. And I think that is so important for everybody listening to this podcast to understand, like you said, these professional organizations, there is no, they're going to help you get rich or help you become successful. It's a business. I mean, think about from where you started to where you are now, the wealth. Have you ever had somebody ask you, can I pick your brain? And it happens to me quite often. Can I pick your brain?
Absolutely.
Well, 20 years. I mean, I can think about, we probably spent $1 million just in professional organizations.
Amazing.
Just over the last 5 years, you want to pick my brain? At what cost? People don't see when it's not tangible. They can't touch it, smell it, taste it. Your mind, what is it worth? So when you're doing, do you primarily, how do you generate revenue for yourself? Are you just going out there and getting referrals now? I mean, you're going to be working from the road. So you physically don't even have an office anymore.
Yeah, we've got a few ways. I mean, the first way is obviously paid ads, right? So we got paid ads, our freebies, our free gifts, our lead magnet. Then obviously we ascend them to our coaching or our course packages. I do a lot of speaking events these days. I'm on the road now, speaking and traveling. You kind of alluded to it. So I get a lot of referrals and word of mouth too. I'm also in different masterminds. And that's the other thing, right? The other beauty of investing in yourself is when you meet other people. I've done so many deals and business partnerships, literally we just launched. I'll give you one perfect example. I met this lady. Her name is Ellen Lin. She is a Taiwanese coach. She's got a 2 Comma Club X. And the cool thing about her is she was a one lady show, and she got a 2CCX, selling over $10 million of an Amazon FBA coaching program to the Chinese market. So super niche to the Chinese market. I met her at Russell's Inner Circle.
Yeah.
I met this other guy named Al, and this is cool because my team actually DM'd him, cold DM him. So we had one of our teams do a cold DM. And when I met Al, I was like, oh my gosh, we should launch a sales training offer to the Chinese market. So we just worked on, me and Al and Alan combined, in the past 30 days. We did everything from creating the logo, the company, the website, the funnel, to launching a webinar. And we've done so far over 8 sales, right? From completely scratch. And we're doing another webinar tonight. Wait, is it tonight or next week? Next Wednesday. So just to show you, these are all people that you meet in masterminds, you meet at events.
So you invest in a mastermind because now you're around like-minded individuals.
Correct.
And because, and this is going to sound really crazy, it's kind of like the golf membership, back in the day, I remember my dad used to spend a lot of money to play golf. And he said, honey, I don't go to play golf. I go to network with people that can also afford this because this is where we do our business because it's a lot of talking. So if you invest money to get in front of the right people that are successful, success breeds success. You're able to help each other. And
you
again, your
trust.
services, it's not for the weak. I'm gonna tell you right now, like working with you, I know it's a lot of work. I know you work with Krista Mayshore, who's a beast. She's like a freight train bringing in $10 million a year. And people would think, oh, well, she already knows what she's doing. Why does she need you? Kind of like an actor, the training never stops.
Correct.
Ever.
Correct. Never. It never stops. Yeah.
So when you're speaking from stage, and there's so many people that speak from stage, especially like Funnel Hacking Live and working with Russell and working with Tony. There's so many people that have, these amazing presence. How do you think you garner respect or trustworthiness when you're first coming out of the gate? I mean, especially when people are like, oh, here's another one of those sales tactics. What makes you different that you're able to work with these 8-figure people? And I mean, it's coveted to even get you on, to lock you down to even do this podcast today.
Correct. I mean, I think for me, and this is, I think, one great thing about growing up where I grew up, right? As a Malaysian kid, I was always taught now this is the pro and con, because, when you're taught to be humble and, when people compliment you, I was taught to basically say, oh, no, that's not me. Be very shy and meek and everything. Now, obviously,
apologize.
Yeah, apology. Right. Oh, it's not me right now. And that's not good, because obviously for your self-esteem, you should be saying, hey, I appreciate your kind words. Well, that means a lot to me, right? That you should be confident. But on the pro side, I've always learned to be humble. So when I get on stage, right, of course, yes, I talk about who I worked with, how much money I've made. But then what I say to people, the audience, right, is literally I say, look, I'm just going to be your friend for the next 30 minutes. I'm just going to take off the speaker hat, this expert hat, this thing that makes me look super cool. I'm going to put it on the side and let's just talk like friends. So I think when I start with that approach, and I get when I finish my presentation, they could be the biggest names like Les Brown and the Tai Lopez's, right? That was speaking. People would actually come to me and say, oh my God, Joel, like, I don't know what it is, but I resonated with your presentation the most. Even though there were these big names, I just loved yours. Yours was the best. And I think the reason why is because I am just people can feel that I'm transparent and vulnerable. I share exactly what I went through growing up. I don't hold anything back, but then I also do my best to add a ton of value, right? And I think that's the recipe for like anything, not just presentations, but also like when you're selling, right? When you're selling on the phone, when you're selling in person, just be vulnerable, just be transparent, and add a lot of value, right? So that's all I could say. Yeah.
I know that when I do presentations, I always say, don't educate too much, don't give too much training. But I almost feel like in order, like for us, there's so many people that try to get into show business. And a lot of times they're learning from lost leaders, people that have tried and failed, or people that are just like them. They all think kind of like, oh, I'm going to make $10,000 a month being an actor. Oh, have you done it before? Right. So sometimes it's the false beliefs, the misconceptions. And that's honestly what I do. I'm like, hey, I'm not some magical unicorn. That we've won like 6 Tony Awards, with our productions. We didn't win them because we were lucky. And I hear that quite a bit. Oh, you're so lucky. Like my profile picture is me and Al Pacino. Oh, you're so lucky. Lucky? Do you have any idea the circles and the amount of money and time I had to invest? Because when you walk into a room, your body language, and you know this, your body language says a million words about you before you even say one spoken word.
Yes.
And when you walked into the event that we had in Miami a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, who is that guy? I need to be friends with him. Because right away, I mean, your shoes were awesome. I think you were wearing Burberry or Gucci. And I was like, okay, he's cool. Not just like, oh, he's making money. Because I don't want anybody to think that's what it's about. But sometimes it's just a conversation starter.
Correct.
You know, like, and people that are on that level respect that. Like, oh my gosh, those are some cool shoes. Those are Burberry. And then a lot of times you have a story to go with it, or and I think that's so amazing that, you know, when you walk into a room, and especially you, I mean, people don't know who you are. I mean, especially for us, like I think people think, oh, show business, is he famous?
Right.
Because you exude that positivity like a famous person, and it's built on confidence.
Correct.
You know what I mean? And I don't want anybody here listening to this think confidence means you're cocky or arrogant, but mindset training, you're like a Jedi, dude. I mean, I think it's, as you're about to spit out your water, but I think it's so important. I mean, for you to kind of get inside the brains of these amazing people like Les Brown, who's a close friend of ours.
Yeah, nice.
I mean, we're talking like legacy. I mean, like legend, you know? And sometimes, like you said, kind of like a Monet, you just need to step back and be like, hey, this is what you can do better. Now, do you ever find like when you're giving somebody critique, do they ever get offended? Or do you ever kind of like tough love them and be like, hey, the reason why you're not doing this, maybe you're a little bit lazy, or do you ever have to, I call it the come to Jesus meeting. Have you ever had to?
I've done, in terms of coaching, so I've done the group of people that I've coached the most is sales professionals. I think today I've coached over at least 5,000 different people, right? Whether it's one-on-one or intimate small group settings. Of course, there are people that have that stubbornness and that hard-headedness. Now, there's obviously varying degrees of that. The people that have the most ego, right? They never make it. They fail within a few weeks. Now, and like now with my experience, I can already smell that from the get-go. From the first meeting, I can already smell the ego. And I would just basically pull them aside one-on-one, be like, hey, I don't think sales is for you because, you know, whenever, you know, this feedback's been given, you just push back a lot, right? It's just wasting everyone's time. I don't want to waste your time. Perhaps a different career path is better for you. So nowadays, we just have a very straight up conversation. Like, you're just not a good fit for this business. And I don't want you to waste your time. I don't want to waste my time, right? But yeah, you're fired basically, right? we can stop working together now, essentially. Or I don't want to, but all the students or the people that I've coached, we vet for that first. So like we vet for it to make sure that they're not their ego is not to a crazy level where they just think that there's some kind of newborn sales god, right?
Unicorn walk
like some kind of unicorn sales god that just appeared on this planet. But now with other people, I've learned this a hard way too, because I'm a very direct person, and I'm what I would call quite thick-skinned, right? And I work very well with people that are very thick-skinned, but I also know that not everybody is thick-skinned, and that's okay. It's no good or bad or right or wrong. So just with people that are not so thick-skinned, I just have to be careful with the way I give feedback. Because they're good at what they do. It's just the way they receive feedback has to be done, you know, a bit different, right? Some people are okay in a group of 10 other sales professionals getting direct feedback. Hey, you know what? You could have done this part better. You could have said this.
Criticism, not meaning to be mean. You're telling them to make them better.
Correct.
Which is what they hired you for.
Exactly. Yeah. But see, here's the thing, Alicia. Most of the times, their CEOs, their bosses, they hire us. And we come in to train them. So like we're hired through the company. We're hired through the company. So these salespeople are like, who are you? Why do I need to be on this training? Right. So we get a bit of that. But the moment they see the value we bring, and they start getting more results, which means they make more money, they become so open after a few weeks. Because obviously, right, if someone's helping you make more money, you're going to be more coachable over time.
Of course.
Right.
And you're going to realize how much you need that. So kind of like a Tiger Woods or Peyton Manning or Tom Brady, they have coaches for everything. Their ankle, their elbow, their everything. Correct. And so I think that when people are on the outside looking in, oh, well, you know, they just must work out. They must learn from top people, even somebody like a Tom Brady to throw perfectly. That's an elbow move, you know. There's one coach just for that elbow, you know, and I think for you especially, I mean, salespeople, you know, we love to argue. It's like our thing. We love to banter because you always have to sell that you're right and that somebody needs to work with you. Now, you talked about red flags a little bit.
Yeah.
When someone says, I don't need training or I don't need your help, do you ever just say, okay, well then why did you hire me? Or, let's see how you do. Do you ever pull out that card going, these are the people I work with? Like, do you ever?
So we obviously we don't close, so we don't even turn them into a client, right? I think we vet them during the actual discovery call, the actual sales,
Okay.
actual initial sales call. So if somebody's like, basically, here's the question I ask people, right? And this is a good sales question that anyone can ask. They say, hey, so let's say we identify the goal. My goal is I want to increase my sales conversions by 40% in the next 6 months. Hey, this is prospect.
40%. That's great.
Yeah, that's a
Yeah.
great goal. Let me ask you this. What makes you think you can get there on your own? Right?
Oh,
So why do you think? So that's a very powerful question, because the
yeah.
phrase on your own, if they come back and say, well, Joe, I'm just shopping around. I could probably go figure myself. I could probably, review my calls. And I'll be like, okay, great. And I guess you don't need me. Why did you book this call in the first place? Why are you even here? Right? But most people, if they're coachable, they'll say, you know what? I've tried for the past 2 years, tried everything. I can't figure out on my own.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's the question I use to vet people out to see whether they're actually open to mentorship and coaching.
That's amazing. And again, it's even like us. Oh, do you need VIP Ignite to put you face to face? What have you tried before? What, as far as your journey, what seems to be your biggest obstacles? Why do you need our help? Right. And I think if anything, they're selling you as to why they need you. Right. And so it makes it a lot easier, especially, when someone goes through a webinar or a Zoom call, especially for multiple hours, or they read testimonials, or as we call them, experiences. All right. So I see behind you, and last time we spoke, you had your 2 Comma Club awards out, you had all the books out, and now I see just like white walls. So tell me about your nomadic journey, because you're getting rid of your place that you currently live, and you're going to go on the road. And it sounds very rock star, but in my opinion, you are a rock star.
Appreciate you.
So tell me about like your journey, about why you decided to sell your home and what's going to happen next. And then where do you go next?
For sure. The reason why we embarked on this journey, so my wife Jaden and I, and she's amazing. She actually worked with me when I was with Dan. She actually ran Dan's events, so she's got good experience event planning.
She knows.
Yeah, we did a big 900 people event in Vancouver. She did that, and so she's also been in this info digital marketing space. But the reason why we decided to do this was for a few reasons. Number one, as I embarked on my own personal development journey, I developed what I think is quite a high level of self-awareness. I think at this point in my life, I have quite a high level of self-awareness of who I am. And I noticed something really interesting a few months ago. All the times where I met the best people, where I made the best connections, where I made the most money, where I made the most impact, was when I did things that were completely new and scary to me. So I noticed, I was like, oh, you know what? I could name 3 exact moments in the past 5 years that when I did those things, for example, number 1, taking a credit card that looked something like this, that I didn't have money for, right? And paying and investing in Dan's course. Extremely scary, but I made my first 6 figures doing online sales. Incredible, right? And I noticed okay, but in the past 5 years, I've also been in periods where I was really complacent and really stagnant. For example, when I was at Dan's company, when I became sales director, one of the reasons why I left was because when I was director for about 2.5 years, 3 years, I just got really cushy. I knew the whole team. I had my managers under me.
Showing up in sweats, as I call it.
I made good money.
Everything was good. Yeah.
I made good money. I was top of the company. I couldn't even promote anymore. There was no other position. I was done. So I was when?
Then you lose incentive.
Yeah. I'm stuck. I'm not growing. Let me quit. Let me run my own business. Right. So I noticed this theme. And again, so I'm looking at myself. Okay, I've been in Canada for 3.5 years. It's beautiful. It's great. We'll probably come back here to settle in the future.
I see the foliage behind you, and I'm like, oh
yeah. It's beautiful. But then I noticed, oh my gosh, I've just been stagnant again. Well, Joel, what do you learn about growing and making more success and impact and money? You get
do scary stuff.
Scary. Yeah. Exactly. So that's why we're selling everything. We've never done this before. Never lived in hotels, Airbnbs, never just not know where to sleep the next week. I've never done that.
Your wife understands this because she's also in the industry. I can't imagine somebody that has that 9 to 5 Fred Flintstone mentality, clock in, clock out, stability, which people love. I'm like, screw that.
Right.
Jump off a bridge, build a plane on the way down. And that's why like mine did.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
And so, again, I
yeah,
love my wife, I appreciate her for that. But that's the reason why. And then our first stop is Orlando for Funnel Hacking Live,
yeah,
which the plan is I'm gonna meet a bunch of my friends there. I think we have a bunch of the same mutual friends, like you
right.
said, the Krista Mayshore, all the. So I'm gonna go ask them, hey, do you need a speaker? Do you need a pitchman in the next couple of events? Then I'm just
And it's
gonna
so much
nail
easier
down
to
as
do
many
it
events.
live and in person than Zoom. Zoom was
That's
cute during,
yes,
the 2 years, but now we need to be
right.
live. Yeah.
Oh no, absolutely. Funny. I just want to mention a quick tangent. I'm glad that you brought that up. It's so interesting because when I first got into this online space, I started in 2018, early 2018, and I was a closer. Now, we had just started using phones. Back then, for sales, there was no Zoom yet. And then
Yeah.
it was interesting because in 2019, 2020, 21, during COVID, we went full force Zoom,
Us
videos
too.
on.
Yeah.
Now, before that, there was no videos, it was just phones, right? And
Right.
then now it's like we're back in person. So I'm looking at the way the industry of sales has kind of revolved and cycled in the past couple decades. We always go through the cycle. We go
Well,
through
now
in
people
person.
are hiring call centers again, like
Yeah,
to physically
yeah,
dial the phone, whereas before,
yeah,
check out my funnel, and kind of take them on that,
yeah.
journey.
So
Now
we're like,
people want real people again.
correct,
So
correct.
I'm wondering, do I need to open up another office? We used to have
Yeah,
three
so
offices in New York City, an office in Miami, an office in Philly.
wow,
I work from
wow.
home, as you know, with a baby in the living
Right,
room. I mean, my
right,
3-year-old, I can never do this. I mean, I think about it like I'm so blessed right now, kind of like you, to
right,
have a supportive partner that
right,
knows I'm going to just go off and travel and
right,
supportive. Tells me
right.
all the time, you're going for work, go. And
Yeah,
sometimes, as a parent, I'm like, oh, I feel like a jerk. But like you said,
right.
like sometimes I feel like a fisherman, and this may be like a weird analogy, but I'm going off to sea and I'm going to come back and we're going to live off the fruits of our nectar. And I think that when people go to ClickFunnels or people invest with Krista or Tony, and you spend all this money to be part of these organizations, some of which 6 figures just to join, but you're in the room with proximity. I mean,
Yes,
proof and power right there. And that gives you authority to then
yes,
generate real relationships without all the tie downs. So now
correct.
you're going to live Miami, Orlando, wherever the road's going to
Yeah,
take you, like a rock
New York,
star.
San Diego. Yeah,
Yeah. And that's so fun because kind of like what you said, you're going to be speaking with Les Brown in
yes,
October. And then
yes,
our event is the following week. And now you're
yes.
not tied back going, oh, I have to go back to Vancouver. I'll just stay. And for me,
Correct.
I'm like, well, I don't want to inconvenience you. And I'm like, but wait, he's living in a hotel anyways. This
Right.
is like part of the deal, right?
Yeah,
You go where you're
absolutely,
needed. And I think that is
absolutely.
so
Yeah.
amazing. All
And the
right.
other cool thing too about being a speaker is that like for different events, I had different deals with my partners, right? Some of
Yeah.
them, they just caught my flight and hotel. Some of them, I get a percentage of sales. It just depends on the way we set it up. Now, some of them, obviously, they're my friends. I just speak because I
Right.
want to. But with every different partner, the nice thing is I have the flexibility. I can say, you know
Okay.
what, I've done this event. I'm gonna pass out. I'm gonna pass on this one for this time, but I'll come back in like a quarter or whatever. So it's like there's a lot of flexibility to just pick
That's
and
so
choose.
fun. That's so fun.
Yeah,
Well, I hope to see you when you come to Orlando. And I know that
yeah,
one of the people that
absolutely.
you met, again, amazing music producer. I don't know if you saw, and this is complete
Yes,
bragging rights, but I got to go to Alex J's studio and I sat there
amazing.
like a kid in a
Wow,
candy store, like just
wow,
buttons everywhere. And just knowing who recorded there, I was just
huge,
mind blown. So I
huge.
know
Yeah,
that even following up, that seems to be like one of the hardest parts about networking is meeting people, but then having the follow through. I think
correct.
everybody's so like, oh, let me take a picture and post it. But a
Yeah,
lot of times that's the end of
yeah,
the journey. So
right,
what are
right.
your best tips like when you meet somebody to
Yeah,
follow up? Do you text them? Do
yeah,
you send them the link? Do you have a
yeah.
QR code? Like how do you follow up
Um,
properly?
so for me, I took this page out of one of my partner. His name's Paul Getter.
Okay.
Paul, he's based in Naples, Florida. But basically what he does, and I use the same system now, is he's got a spreadsheet, good old
Oh,
spreadsheet. And then you have your like you bucket it into like 2, 3 categories. Your top category is like your VIP people that you've met. The people that are, the super successful that you want to do business with or you want to learn
top of the
from.
food chain. Okay.
Yeah, top of the food chain. And you obviously put their email, their phone number, everything like that. But then you also have notes, right? Like when was the last time you contacted him? And you just go back to the sheet every day, every week, and you will know exactly when was the last time you reached out. Just keep that thing updated every week.
That's a
You're good
good
to go.
idea.
Yeah, simple. Because it's a sheet. Nothing fancy, nothing crazy, and then you just put notes. Last reach out, that's it. Yeah. Now
Almost
we
like your
also use
Bible. It's your go-to. And
yeah,
I'm
it's like
thinking
a
about all the years that I've been networking.
Rolodex.
I just put them in my phone. And sometimes like I'm like,
Right,
who
but you
knows
don't
this?
you don't remember when you texted somebody or
Yeah,
right? Yeah, and then
yeah,
oh I forgot about that. I didn't even know I had your number in my phone, you know? Yeah,
yeah.
Rolodex, the Rolodex, the
Rolodex, the
sheet.
old school
Yes.
Rolodex. Yeah,
The
like
old school
magnet. Give me
Rolodex.
this number back in the day.
Yeah, yeah. Now it's on a spreadsheet. So that
It's
works.
on a spreadsheet and you can keep up with your notes and your last con. That's smart. I like
Yeah.
that. I
And
personally try to memorize. I'll set a reminder, follow up a year
oh,
from
nice,
now. Hey,
nice.
how are you? It's been a while, and
Yeah, yeah,
sometimes it
yeah.
seems a little scripted, but
Right.
sometimes a year later, just wanted to touch base with you.
Yeah.
And I think sometimes, and I really want to stress this when, especially on a podcast, when you're meeting people, like you said at the beginning of, the top of the hour, you're like, bring value. You're not just trying
Mhm.
to sell things. You want to genuinely, I'm your friend.
Right,
What can I do to
right.
help? And you
Correct.
always want to serve. And I
Correct.
think that people that do that versus having their hand out or just trying to stuff their program down your throats, it literally, don't even worry about the money. The money will come. Do the right thing. Be
Correct.
friendly. They
Correct.
people can spot that. The red flags. You can tell when somebody's desperate or when
Mhm.
somebody's just really it's a fake friendship. And I,
Right.
I
Right.
on that note, I want to thank you for coming out last week. And again, everybody
Yeah,
loved having you, and your
absolutely.
story was amazing. And we had this
Thank
big
you.
after
Yeah.
party at the bar, which
Yeah.
again, I
Correct.
appreciate you coming out, but I hope you had a good
Yeah.
time.
That was
Um,
amazing. Thank you so much.
Good, 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 good. Well, I hope to see you in Miami, and I know you're gonna hang out with Alex J and soccer. Is that what I heard? You're
Yeah.
gonna do
Yeah.
soccer?
So he plays this 5-on-5 thing, quite often actually. I think two, three
Yeah,
times a week. So we're gonna go play a game together. We found out we both like the same soccer team. We've been
that's
fans since
cool.
we were kids. So
Yeah,
it's a great again, right? It goes to show that the people that you meet at these events, at different programs and masterminds, you never know who you're gonna meet. You might find your next best friend, partner, business partner, whatever, program partner. Like you could do so much. So, obviously thank you to VIP Ignite for giving us that opportunity to meet and connect. It was huge.
and it's great because you're so genuine, not just on Zoom, but also live and in person. Can you provide any links for anybody to find you or anything that Obviously, we're all about adding value.
Yeah.
Any
Yeah.
any gifts? Anything?
Yeah, so I have this gift that people have told me that they really love. So we actually took this out of one of our programs and turned it into like a freebie for anybody. Basically what it's called the plug and play inbound sales master script. Now that's a very long mouthful.
Plug and play. Yeah.
Long story short, it's a script that when you're on a sales conversation, you could literally refer to because it's like a guideline of exactly what questions to ask, why to ask those questions, and how do you actually make the sale and everything like that. So it's not just for sales. You could use it for speaking, for communication, for overall. Heck, you can even use it to
Relationships.
talk to your kid, talk to
Yeah.
your wife. Yeah, use the same stuff. So I'm gonna I guess I can just say out the link, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna say this really slowly because it's a bit long. It's not too long, but I'll say it slowly. So you got to go to www.scale, which is SCALE scale, team, TEAM team circle, CIRCLE.com. So
Oh,
www.scaleteamcircle.com / Yep,
okay.
there's a forward slash. Yep.
Forward
Value,
slash value.
yeah, value dash inbound, like inbound, outbound, inbound, dash scripts. So scaleteamcircle.com / value dash inbound dash scripts. There you go. That's
So
the link
fun.
to.
So we'll obviously, here's the link right here. We'll make sure it's posted here.
Yes.
But I thank you so much for being here. And I'm so excited to see and hear about your traveling and so
Yeah,
fun. So
I
fun.
appreciate
And
that,
I
Lee.
hope to meet your wife soon. That she's
Yes, you
going with you
will.
everywhere now.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
that's kind of
you
cool.
will.
Let me ask you a quick question. Being that you're married in a relationship and being that she's supportive, have you ever
Yes.
had somebody that wants to do tremendous things, but their significant other or family is kind of like the weight holding them down? Have you ever had
Yeah.
that situation?
Yeah, it's tough because it didn't always start out like this, or even for me, we had moments where we had arguments and things like that. But she's amazing. You know, I'm very grateful, very thankful for her. She's obviously sacrificed a lot as well for what we or I wanted to do, right? So I thank her a lot. And I've also coached a lot of my clients and students who have who have that sort of dilemma.
They want to do
But
big things, but they
right,
also, friends and family
but
or loved ones telling them,
right.
you know, you
But
can't.
I mean, right. What I can say is this. I mean, obviously, if you're married, right, you're married, you're married. You know, like obviously we
Right.
don't, no one wants to go through the last resort of just getting divorced. Right? That's not an option for many people. But what I will say is like, if you can start by getting incremental results, right? Start by getting small results to prove to yourself and your family that what you're doing is going to work. I believe over time, they can't deny what you're going to do because all your small results eventually stack up into something big. So you might not go all out the first get-go, the first launch. You might not go all the way to the moon, right? But if you can get a few, stars along the way, and you can show your spouse or your family, I believe they'll be more open-minded. Just start small, not small,
Yeah,
but start
and
step at a time. Yeah.
I always like to piggyback on anytime I hear anything about mindset, especially when someone wants to be a rock star, but their friends and family home by 8, like,
Right.
because they get worried that you're going to be, as my mom says, too big for your britches, and grow out of the relationship. But one thing I would like to add to that is always don't make it about yourself. Make it, I'm doing it for us.
Yes.
And I think when somebody hears that, it's like, oh, okay, I understand they're working so hard. I'm a little not appreciative, but I can sympathize. Oh, they're stressed or
Yes.
yeah.
And
Well,
then
that's amazing.
and if for me too, like sometimes you know what? Sometimes the people in your life, you have to love them, but you have to love them from far, from a distance. And that might
Business,
mean
your friends and family. Sometimes they don't come together.
that might mean
They don't
moving across the
understand.
country. Yeah, that might mean moving away from home. That might mean moving across the country to a
Going on
different
the
state.
road.
Yeah.
I'll see you when I want to see you.
So sometimes you have to do what you have to do, right? Like you can't, because you know what? If you're in that situation right now where your family and your friends are just not helping you, in fact, they're pulling you back down, then you probably want to consider loving them from a distance. Let's just say it. Let's just call it that, right? Which is probably what I've had to do with my parents, what my friends had to do with their spouses. Like we've all had to do that once or twice in our lives.
And I think that's another reason why professional organizations and mentorship is so important, because I always feel like I'm the oddball. I'm the only one in my family that works 24/7. I love it. I'm passionate about it. It's Saturday. It's 7 o'clock at night. You have a kid. I know. How cool is this that I get to travel around the world and be able to support the family? Like Jeff doesn't even have to work. I do it all. And I think some people think I'm being selfish. I'm like, as a mom, like you shouldn't have to choose. You just want to be the best you can be.
Right.
I'm a great mom when it, but when I'm here at the desk, it's work. And when I go to conventions, I'm there. I'm there to not do it half-ass. I'm there to do 100%. And I think it's so important that for anybody on this journey, you're not alone. And that's another reason why you want to join professional organizations, because like-minded individuals, you feel lost. You feel like no one understands, because typically they don't. That's why you got to get in front of the right people, just to know, like, okay, I've been in that situation. This is what I've done. And even if it's just sales calls. So I thank you so much for being here. And it was great talking to you again. And I hope to see you when you come to the Sunshine State. But now I know Miami, Orlando, you're right there.
Be around. Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, Joel.
Yeah. Take care, Alicia. See you later.
Thank you. This is Coffee in the Green Room. Bye, guys.
Bye.